Good Saturday morning. Welcome to the David and Chuck Show here on Championship Saturday pregame. Good morning, Chuck. How are you, my friend?
Good, good. Battling a cold, a little in the throat, and so talking kind of sound funny, but please excuse me.
Oh, you've got this. You've got this. And Jonathan, I know that they were into some stuff. I don't know what time or if he's going to be able. If he's able to be with us, we'll bring him in. Looking forward to Tuesday. Excuse me, Sunday. Tomorrow was the announcement show, and hopefully we can have the people on they're going to have great debate. I would love to have Coach Matthews, and he will add spice to the debate as we talk about the 12. But championship Saturday weekend, Chuck, and I guess before we get going, let's talk about Friday night championship games. And let me flip over here. The first one we'll talk about was Boise 21, UNLV 7. And boy, that young man, that running back for Boise State, he's the real deal.
Yeah, Genty is one of the candidates for the Heisman Trophy. Obviously, he's had a great year. And I can't believe that Jonathan picked UNLV as an upset there. So,
and so that puts Boise, and again, we're not going to talk detailed right now about the 12 and the bracket and all that, but that puts Boise in at, I guess, a bye, or I guess a bye, because they're ranked ahead of whoever wins the ACC. So
right.
They'll get the 4 seed.
Right.
So,
have a
so Boise is in a big win for them. And look, when you're in, you have a chance, regardless of the debate, regardless of talking about if you deserve to be there or not, regardless of any of that. If you're in, you got a chance. And look, they're 12-1, and their only loss was to the number 1 team in the country that nobody really ever talks about, that we're going to talk about this morning. In the other championship game last night, to me, the American Athletic Championship game just makes me happy. Army 35, Tulane 14, and that's nothing against Tulane. I love Tulane. I love their logo. I love their helmet. Love their uniforms. But man, 11-1 Army, and is that not really, to me, because of the fact that you've got the 12-team playoff? People haven't talked about them all year, but what a hell of a story. Go Army, beat Navy.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it last night because it come to the realization that all what I complain about outside on college football, I have exactly what I want. Guys going to class, taking hard classes, academic minds, working that muscle in the brain, in the head, playing. Academies give you everything what you want about college football. And I just sat there watching it, and I was intensely involved in that whole game. And it was I just realized leave the den of vipers and come and root for the academy. You get everything you want if you are a true college football.
And when the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game, and again, I will admit, I was in bed by the second quarter, but the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game was, you saw the opening drive and you thought, uh-oh, because Tulane just has speed, and you're going, uh-oh. And then they made that big stop on the first drive defensively on the 4th down. Or no, they stopped them on 3rd down to force the field goal.
And it was
and then they got the ball back. And Army, one of the things Army's done this year is they've incorporated more of the passing game. But last night, they only threw the ball twice. They were 2 for 2, and they just – And I wish I could. I'm trying to get time of possession, Chuck, and I don't have it broken down.
It was 33 minutes for Army, and I think it was 27 minutes for Tulane.
So it wasn't that okay, but a big win. And again, I think the thing that's, as you read about the game this morning, I've been up since about 3 because I'm an idiot. Is as you read about the game last night, and they were excited. You know, they won their conference championship. They get a ring. They get a trophy. But all you heard was, "Hey, this is great. This is good.
Right.
We play Navy. Go
Right.
Army." And that to me, my favorite football game every year is Army Navy.
Right.
Regardless of records, regardless of anything. I think Army Navy, and I am so looking forward to next week for that game. And again, as a former military policeman, military police investigator, and all that good stuff, I say go Army, beat Navy. You guys eat too good anyway. You Navy people. I mean, look, my dad was Air Force, and I love the Air Force, but you guys, you were soft. You Navy people, you're soft. You Air Force people, you're soft. You got to be tough. You got to be tough. And plus, you ate better than us. Go Army, beat Navy. And Chuck, why don't you, on this beautiful Saturday morning on the 7th of December.
Think what's the significance of today?
Yeah, it is.
December 7th. Pearl Harbor Day.
Yep, and all these years later, may God bless their soul,
Right.
and because that is, man, so many people have sacrificed so much for us to be able to do the crazy crap that you and I do here, and
Right.
But anyway, why don't you? No, don't. I was going to say, speak what you put in your text when it's go Army, beat Navy, but
no.
And so just really an awesome win by Army yesterday, because I don't know that a lot of people picked them to win, and not just win, but they beat them up and 35-14. I don't think a lot of people saw that, Chuck. I think they were.
Well, in watching the game, it started off, they showed the early part of pregame before they got started. And several, I think it was about 6 or 7 Tulane players came out in no shirt, bare-chested, came out. And I thought, being from Michigan, somebody should have told you, once you get cold, you can't get warm. And once they got done with their pregame, they were so cold, they went in and they started putting all this, gear on. And somebody needs to tell you, if you start sweating, that sweat goes to cold too on a cold body. And it was by the second quarter, Tulane, you could tell Tulane was not loose in 26-degree weather. Army was playing like Army. They're just ramming it down there, but
26 degrees, that's nothing. That's a heat wave.
I mean, they train in that. So it is a factor. Cold weather. If you watch the Army Navy or watch the Army Tulane game, you will see. Say hi to Mr. Crumpton.
Hi, Mr. Crumpton.
Good morning, my baby boy.
But you will see that when when you watch a game, you'll see that what cold weather does to Southern schools if you're not acclimated to it. I mean, it's reality.
It is reality. And so, and we'll talk about Army Navy in a little bit. And before we move on to today's clashes, a couple of things. I'm going to go down some headlines here, okay? Oklahoma State is, I think, the powers that be. I'll read the headline, and I've done a little bit of research. Oklahoma State, their board, whoever those people are, had a meeting yesterday, and they are trying to cut Coach Gundy's pay. Basically, they don't want him around anymore. But he's been there 20 years. He was a quarterback there. He's been a head coach for 20 years. I am a man, remember, and he is the second longest tenured coach in big time college football, and it looks like it's going to be a messy divorce, because I don't think because What I read, and let me say this, Chuck, real quick, is if he doesn't take this pay cut, they want to fire him for cause, but nobody's saying what the cause is. So things are not going well in Stillwater, and it looks like it's going to end ugly.
Well, I want to say about 15 years ago, T. Boone Pickens, one of the wealthiest people in America, who's passed on now, put over $300 million into the athletic program for the facilities, from the golf course all the way to the football program. So T. Boone Pickens put Oklahoma State on the map. With that said, is that I've wondered over the last 5 years, how is this guy surviving? I mean, you're in big time. It's a different environment. It's not the landscape where it's more important that you can hang your hat and say, look, I'm graduating the players. We're 6-6 or 7-5. We're going to a bowl game. For all the money that they spent. And I question when Oklahoma State says, well, the money they spent, they didn't spend it. It was T. Boone Pickens' money that they spent and invested. So it didn't come out the pocket of Oklahoma State University. So in reading that, I come to the same conclusion that they're pulling Michigan. Think about that. They're pulling a Michigan when Michigan did that to Harbaugh. They reduced his salary, but built in incentives. And if he wants to coach for that, put incentives in and let him stay on. I mean, he's made a lot of money, but I don't know what he wants to do. But the bottom line is this is not good for Oklahoma State, because you can tell there's a battle coming.
Yeah, and it's going to be ugly, because I don't know him well. Back in the day, I probably got the chance to talk to him 3 or 4 times, just quickly, because at that point, Oklahoma State probably wasn't going to be a situation that Jonathan was looking into. But as you follow his career, he's kind of like Lane, but under the radar. He's going to say things, and he's not trying to hurt anybody. He's going to protect his kids, but he's going to say things, and he is outside the box of the norm. And I just don't see this ending well at all, Chuck, at all, for anyone involved, for the university, for him. He's got his money, but we'll see how it goes. So we're going to keep an eye on that. I think a big story that people need to pay attention to is the quarterback from Kansas, Daniels, is going to come back in 25. Let me tell you something. I think Kansas has a chance to compete for a championship next year. They're playing. Hey, look, they're the same thing as South Carolina. If you ask me right now, who are the 2 of the top 10 teams in the nation, I will tell you South Carolina and Kansas. On this right now, I think those are 2 of the top 10 teams in the country. They had injuries early. They didn't play very well early, and they were out and gone. But man, have they turned it around, and they've got a great coach. And I think we both agree we love that guy. And with him coming back, and I think Kansas, folks, don't sleep on Kansas. That's one of our text things. Don't sleep on the Cincinnati Reds this coming year either. But don't sleep on Kansas, and I think that's a big deal, Chuck, him coming back.
I agree. It's a similar path that they're taking when you look at Kansas and, not South Carolina, but Kansas, is that Army last year started 2-6. And then won their last 4 games and were strong in the last 4 games to finish 6-6. And look at them this year. They just continued that winning. Once they make that turn, they find their niche, they do what they start doing, it starts clicking for them. Get out of the way, because you got to look at the momentum that they can carry over. I believe you're 100% correct on Kansas. I think they have it clicked for them, and they got people healthy, but also they got great coaching in Leipold, who was a Division III national head coach at a powerhouse, Wisconsin Whitewater. Then went to Buffalo, turned that around, then came to Kansas. So Leipold has got Kansas right where he wants them. All this momentum, all this enthusiasm built into for the offseason to get ready for 2025.
Georgia Tech gave a 5-year extension to Coach Key and some more money. Love what he's doing in Atlanta. Love the way he does it. Love the way he carries himself. And good for him. Good for the program. And again, I think Georgia Tech is a team. The way that he's building the program, I think you need to kind of keep an eye on the Yellow Jackets. And good for him in that program. I'm curious to see what happens as they go into spring ball, who they get, who they lose. But good job by him down there at Georgia Tech. And I thought all year that they were a pretty good football team.
Yeah. Speaking of transfers, is that on Monday when it opened up the transfer portal, 14 Kentucky players, boom, hit the transfer portal. I was like, man. And then I think it was 11 LSU players, boom, hit the transfer portal. So, you're looking at teams, if they're hitting the transfer portal, they got bowl games. Well, Kentucky doesn't, but they got bowl games, LSU does. And they're going to come in with a depleted, roster, because you're going to have some of those players that are going to declare for the draft and not play in the bowl game. So, but on that point is that I'm like Jonathan, I lost my train of thought when I hit that transfer portal.
That's all right. Yeah. Talk about Georgia Tech and all that. And yeah. And then I go back. Go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it just depends on what Georgia Tech loses in the transfer portal and what they pick up. If they pick up pieces, they had a decent recruiting. But, again, when you recruit, it's not next year that recruiting class. It's about, you got to look 3 years out. From the time they sign them till 3 years out, they're going to start making those contributions.
And they're probably not going to be at your school.
Right.
So, yeah, that has changed. Arkansas State extended Butch Jones until 2029. I'm not surprised that they extended him, but I sure am surprised that it goes to 2029. And I'm sure there's a clause in there somewhere if he wanted us to get out. But, like champions, what is that? What is it?
Life.
Yep. But hey, I'll tell you one thing that he did do though. He's the one that came up with the VFL. And if you're a Tennessee person, if you're a guy that played there, or you're somebody that's been in the program, or you're somebody that's, the VFL is a cool thing, Evolve for Life. So I give him that.
You have to look at Butch. He is a Saugatuck, Michigan native. And if you ever been to Saugatuck, it's beautiful. It's on Lake Michigan, so on and so forth. He's a Ferris State guy. And then, he coached at Central Michigan and Cincinnati before coming to Tennessee. He is, I want to say that he was developed or from the tree of Kelly at LSU. But he's a good guy.
Oh, look.
The one thing that I look at when I look at Butch Jones, he's got all the phrases, but I still to this day was mesmerized when they showed him building his brick mailbox and how to build the team. Remember the brick mailbox he built? Yeah. It's brick by brick, and I just sitting there going, "Really? Are we doing this?"
Well, I mean, to each, that part, yeah, I get what you're saying. I do. But I will go back and to defend a lot of those guys. Now, the guy that they brought in there after Lane, Dooley, that he was in way over his head. But the program, and we're going to get on to things that are a lot more important, but to defend him and the guys that were there after him, there was a lot of things besides just being a head football coach that had to kind of get gone out of there,
right.
for the program, for that fan base, for the alum to kind of go, okay, let's breathe. But that's another story. One of the bigger stories this week in Chapel Hill, Coach Belichick had a formal interview, not a discussion, but a formal interview with the University of North Carolina to be their head football coach. I don't know. Do I think he would do a good job? Absolutely. Is it probably going to happen? I don't know. I think he wants to. If he goes back, he wants to go back in the NFL and try to beat Coach Shula's record, which I hope doesn't happen. But Belichick in college, and immediately our group text, and you said, well, I don't ever see this happening. And then I put a little thought into it, and I thought, and I said, I could for the following reasons. He comes in, coached 2 or 3 years. His son, who left the Patriots, just finished his first season as the defensive coordinator of the Washington Huskies. I could see there be a succession plan, plan there. Hey, I'm going to come. I'm going to do this. We're going to bring my kid, and maybe he could be the next head coach when I'm done. That's just me thinking out loud.
Right. I'd like to know if North Carolina reached out to him or he reached out to North Carolina. That would be intriguing to me, as if they reached out to him. They also reached out to the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who is a UNC grad, a UNC man. And his dad is the CEO and founder of FedEx.
Yeah. I have a good story. Yeah.
Can you imagine the money coming in for NIL money into North Carolina? Oh,
but he turned it down.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he already said, no, I'm good where I am. And I think he wants to go back as a head coach in the NFL. But intriguing that Belichick and North Carolina have had discussion. Is there a follow-up? Is there more that we are going to see?
So here is my question then, is that if they reached out, North Carolina did reach out for Arthur Smith, he turned them down. Then we get the news that Belichick had a formal interview, so they brought that in. Could that be the pathway of interest to say, what about your son, who's at Washington right now, and in the college football, Washington Huskies? Is that, what about your son? Would you recommend him to take this job? And maybe Belichick's more, if he, interviewing him and getting an idea of what needs to be done here. Maybe Belichick says, I'm not ready or want to take the Carolina, but here are 3 names you want to look. Who better to get names from than a successful NFL football coach? Yeah. So there may be some more tenants off of that meeting. Yeah. If not you, Mr. Belichick, who?
That's right. Who better than the 3rd or 4th best coach to ever do it?
Right.
Behind Don Shula.
Seems to me that North Carolina is looking for an NFL coach.
And the possibility, absolutely. And so far, that's what we're seeing.
Right.
Because, again, you are dealing with, and we're going to get into the games today, but you are dealing with 365 days a year free agency. Who knows more about free agency than those guys?
Right.
Because that's literally what you're dealing with.
And if you get guys in and then, you can tell them, look, if you transfer, you move here right now, you're not ready, you will not make it to the NFL. I know, I was in the NFL.
Yep. And that's and he can look and say, look, I've got 6 rings as a head coach, 2 as a coordinator. I got 8 rings.
I know who the NFL wants. And right now, you're not at what the NFL wants. And if you transfer, you'll knock yourself out of the loop.
Because, I'll tell you, you talk about, because all these things pop up as we talk. And I'll never forget sitting in the office at Chapel Hill with Coach Bunning, who, by the way, Coach Bunning was a good man. Mm-hmm. A good man. Just if he was a couple of kids away from them being special. But we're sitting in his office, and he's if I can put my hand up here, and he was the defensive coordinator for the Rams under Coach Vermeil when they won the Super Bowl against the Titans. And he's sitting there like this, and the whole time we're in there 2 or 3 hours, and he's going like this.
Got that Super Bowl ring.
Got showing that Super Bowl ring. He'd take it off and he'd put it back on. So yeah, you talk about the Super Bowl ring. But anyway, man, Oh, I know. I sure would. Let me do this, but Coach Matthews, if I really wish you'd come on with us right now. Just send me a yes or a no on your because the discussion that he's having typing in, Chuck, is it's so good. It's so darn good. But if he'll let us know. But anyway, noon on ABC, Arizona State and Iowa State. Big 12 champions go to the playoffs, but the Big 12 champion will not get a bye. And that's for another, again, that's on down the road today. Arizona State and Iowa State, both are 10-2. Man, you kind of wish they could both win. I do, because they're outside the box. I want these teams to go deep. I want them to go far. Analysis of your thoughts of the 12 o'clock kickoff on ABC.
My first analysis is that it comes from Jimmy Leland. It doesn't matter what your record is in the regular season. All you do is what you can do to get into the playoffs. Once you get into the playoffs, everybody, they don't come and bring in their 9-3 record or their 10-2 record. They come in 0-0 just like you.
That's right.
And I'll get that. You have the same chance. You can be playing better than them, and you can go run deep or all the way to the to the World Series. Well, in this case, Arizona State or Iowa State, whoever wins that game, will get the chance to come in and go 0-0. They're 0-0 just like everybody else and play the game. And you have your shot. Now, I happen to think that it's appropriate. It's good that one team from the Big 12 gets in. One team, I said that before in the text. If we're truthful and intellectually honest, one team from the ACC deserves to be in.
Well,
also, we've watched a ton of games, and I just don't think that the ACC warrants more than one in the playoffs. So for whoever comes in from the Big 12, and I think the hottest team in college football right now is Arizona State. But if Iowa State puts a stunner on them, a stone cold stunner. You've been sending me a bunch of that stuff, the wrestling stuff all week long.
Woo!
I mean, what that quiz is like, who is this guy? I mean, what are we dealing with here? I don't know. I know sports, but if he puts a cold Steve Austin stunner on him, then and gets in, then Iowa State has the same equal chance to run the table. But I think they're matched equally on both sides of the ball, no matter how you look at it. So to me, it would just come down to on a neutral field, mistakes, penalties, miscues, that type of stuff. So you got to play your A game, because if you play your B game, it could get away from you.
Let me ask you this: where and I hate that I don't have the answer. Where are they playing today? Do you know?
Dallas.
Okay, so they're in Dallas. Arizona State is a 1.5 point favorite, which is basically even. Arizona State throws the ball just a little. Iowa State throws the ball just a little bit better. Arizona State runs the ball just a little bit better. I think it's going to be a really, really good matchup. I think I go back. I think it's really good, especially in today's environment. I think it's great for college football that these two teams are playing for the Big 12 championship. I don't demean these guys.
No,
and I think I'm not talking to you, but in general, you see all these people, all these pundits, and shut up. They need. I go back to what Jonathan said. Was it last week or week before? If you play at this level, you're a damn good football player. To be able to go at this level. These guys are good. They're both loaded with guys that are going to play in the National Football League. And I think it's really good for college football. And whoever wins this football game, I hope they make a deep run. I truly, truly hope they make a deep run. I guess this is the chicken's way out. I don't know who's going to win. I'm not disappointed in anybody that wins because I think both the coaches do things the right way. And no one saw any of these two teams here in August, especially Arizona State.
Right. Well said. First of all, well said. It to me, it's a must-watch, game, and rock and roll. They're going to play if they're going to play at noon, in Eastern Standard Time. They're in Dallas. They're going to be 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
right?
10 or 11. I think it's 11.
Okay.
I think they're Central, but it could be 10.
A late morning game.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how it starts, if it starts sluggish. But bottom line, it's indoors for the most part. They got that roof and all that stuff. But still, you're down in a southern place, and you're going to – I think it's just going to come down to the mistakes and penalties. And I don't know who's going to win. Either one has a shot. I mean, seriously.
I'm really excited to see that game today.
Now, I don't.
Janet, I'm on the show. I'll have to call you back. She's going to get her fingernails done because, can I tell you this real quick? Can I tell you this? Okay.
Is she you to go?
No, she's gone now. She's gone. She hung up. So Brooke, our daughter, is like I don't know, whatever. She's a big wig at ABCCM. She's got a fancy title, and they've done amazing work every day, but especially since this hurricane. But anyway, ABCCM does a yearly live nativity scene where it's like a play, and you have to. And you walk from part to part to part as you go through. You go from part A, and you have different people doing the thing at each stop. Well, Brooke had texted her mom and said, "Hey, I need you to volunteer to do this thing." Like basically said, "Hey, can you help move some boxes?" And Janet said, "Absolutely, I'll do whatever you need to do." Well, she had set Janet up. Because when Janet showed up to move boxes, they said, "Well, no, you're not here for that. You're now going to be, you're going to be in the play." And if you know Janet, she is an extrovert, but she doesn't like for people to see her do. So now Janet is going to be for the next 2 days for like 4 or 5 hours a day in this live nativity scene where she's got like these 6 lines that she has to do. And she is all too heck this morning about going out for today and tomorrow. Then she goes, "I'm going to mess my lines up." So before I came down here, this was like 5 o'clock this morning. I said, "Here, I'll be your acting coach." So we're at the house, and I'm going over these lines with her. And I was talking about, well, it says here you have to emphasize this word because the baby needs these things. Baby Jesus needs these things. You don't need them. You need these. And she's up there trying to and she's going, "Man, you're messing me up." Now all I'm going to do is laugh when this line comes. So all the folks, when you go out to see that today and tomorrow, tell Janet, "Hey," and make her laugh, make her break character. That would be fun because she is all too heck, Chuck. She is tore up about this.
She'll be fine.
I know she will, but it is hilarious. So anyway, Arizona State, Iowa State, great game. I have to do this. I have to do this. I apologize, but then again, not really, because everywhere you go in this country, and God's blessed us, Janet and I have been able to go all over the country to different, but you always see Buckeye people, and that's cool, man. They got great support. And today tonight at 8 o'clock, they're going to watch Penn State and Oregon play for the Big Ten plus 150 championship, even though they're locked in the playoffs. Sorry. And I know how much joy this brings you. I know how much happiness you have.
Man.
I know
Oh,
because
man.
because hold on, Chuck. Something. Oh my goodness.
We lost again to Michigan.
I could not wait because look, hold on. There you go.
That's the look you get when you know you got beat by a 6-5 Michigan team. Yeah, second loss of the year.
I'm so sorry. No, I'm not. Hold on. Let me go back.
Buckeye tears. Where's Buckeye Bob? We call
Does
him.
that make you feel good today?
Oh,
Does
yes.
that give you joy and peace and happiness?
I have been on my Buckeye fans for all week long, and I've been unmerciful.
Oh, the things that I sent you this week that I know that you've passed on.
I passed on, and my nephew passed on stuff. My son passed on stuff. Truett passed on stuff. I'll send you some of the stuff I sent him, but I don't know. We call him Buckeye Bob. He lives in Waynesville, and I have been unmerciful. He's been quiet, but Truett told me, he says, "You broke our guy."
Okay, just be stoic for 1 second. I have to do this one more time, and then we'll move on.
What are we gonna do?
I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Does that make sense? Because before we move on to that game, I look at it differently. It's been unmerciful for Coach Day. It has been unbelievably unmerciful. The guy's lost, 6 football games is all he's ever lost or something like that. But he happened to lose 4 of them to Michigan in a row. Right. And, alum, the people that played there, they want him gone. A majority of the fan base wants him gone. One of the things, and we did talk about on a serious thing, was I've got this thing that I really probably shouldn't talk about here, but I'm able to get every television station and network on the planet Earth on my television. Every local, there's 700 and something local stations between all the networks in the United States. And I went and spent just sitting here and watched from Columbus, Ohio, the local. Oh my goodness, Chuck. Man, it has been brutal. They went and had aerial photos of his house with his address and said, "We pay him all this money to live in this beautiful house. It's time for him to go." He's lost 6 or 7 games. Is that? I'm not defending him in any way. I'm just saying, what are your, before we move on, what are your thoughts on his in Buckeye land? All joking aside,
I think that the first 3 losses to Harbaugh, and when he came up against Sharon Moore last year and lost that game in Michigan, I believe that affected him. And I think he panic coached. And when you are panicking on the sidelines, knowing if something disaster happens, then you're going to panic again when you match up against Michigan. You're trying to figure out what they know. They're all bent out of shape about stolen signs. I'd call up and say, or I'd get on the news and say, "Hey, we stolen their signs. We stole their signs by the first quarter." I'd make them go redo things and everything. I'd tell them, "Yeah, we stole them. We sat there and looked at them. You can steal signs right there on the spot. We don't need a computer or somebody on the sideline. We stole their signs, and look what happened." That offense to score 10 points at home tells you, and 2 missed field goals. When it comes, they're recruiting kids that don't know that rivalry. They don't know that rivalry. I've never seen the softness out of Ohio State that I've seen for the last 4 years. Last 4 years, David. That has been a soft Ohio State football team. You know, that's the same Ohio State when they match up against Michigan. Michigan, it's like Army Navy. It's all out war for Michigan. It's everything we have to offer. We'll take the chances, whatever the case may be, but we're kicking your ass. And, you know, Ohio State is trying to figure out what they can do, and they end up doing something different than they've done all season long. That's panic coaching. And he's admitted that. Now they're dissecting his program. So I love this out of Ohio State. Is he a good coach? Well, I mean, he's a good coach in regular season, you know, regular games. But when it comes to big games, what happens? You know, I've not been in that situation, so I don't know, and I don't care. They're well deserving of those 4 losses in a row, and if they can figure it out, I hope they don't. I hope they don't figure it out.
You hope they don't figure it out.
No,
All right.
I don't want to figure it out.
Right. Number 1 Oregon on CBS tonight. Number 1 Oregon, 12-0, is taking on the Nittany Lions from Penn State. 11-1. CBS kickoff 8 p.m. Oregon is a 3.5-point favorite. And again, you and Jonathan and Mike and you guys know a heck of a lot more about that stuff than I do. About the point spreads, because it's never really anything that I care that much about. You know, because of all the turmoil and all the stuff on the back end with the Alabama thing, people aren't talking about Oregon. You know, I mean, they're you know, as we get, you know, they will as the playoffs start, but that's a pretty darn good football team, and they've beat everybody they've played. They're playing, it's in Indianapolis inside the Hoosier Dome, right? Or whatever it's called now.
Yeah, the dome in it.
Yeah. Going to be a good football game. Coach Franklin just has never, on the bigger stages, he hasn't gotten it done. Is tonight.
Possibly. One thing is that when you look at the level of play for Oregon when they come east, they don't play as well. When they came to Wisconsin, you know, they escaped with a 16-13 game. When they, remember, I was 2 years ago or last year when they came east to play Georgia in the opener, they got shellacked. They don't play as well as they do playing in the West Coast. When they're in the East, there's like slippage. I don't know what causes that. So with that known, there is a chance for Penn State, because I'm going to tell you something. Penn State's defense is legit. That's a legit defense.
I'm going to throw something at you that I just saw this. It just popped up. And I don't know how the metrics and all that stuff, but the matchup predictor for ESPN says win probability, Penn State 53.5, 46.5 for Oregon. And that I never saw until just now. So curious to see who's going to win the football game. Just tell me who's going to win the football game.
Well, I'm going to pull a Jonathan and pick the underdog here, and I'm going to pick Penn State to win the football game.
And I never thought I would hear you say that unless it was a good, deep discussion that we're having now, because you say anything you want.
Okay. Seeing he's not on the air, don't ever tell him. But Jonathan, about this being money about the playoffs, he's right. He's right. I realized that last night watching the Army game. I realized that watching how you get everything from the academies, and then I thought that little rascal is right. It's all about money. It's all about.
Yep. And we're going to have and tomorrow, as we break down and start with our show with everybody, hopefully on here, that's going to have to be part of the discussion as we talk about tomorrow.
No, I won't say anything. I'll deny ever saying what I just said.
No, that's not you. You're like Schultz. Only the older people would know that.
Yeah.
Right? You know nothing.
I know nothing. I didn't. Who said that?
That's it. 8 o'clock, ABC. And again, why they put the two games at the same time against each other, that's got stupid. But anyway, ABC, 8 o'clock, Clemson and SMU. Charlotte, I hope there's a good crowd. In the past, Charlotte has not done a good job of supporting the ACC championship game. They just haven't. You can sugarcoat it any way you want. Hopefully there's a good crowd. I know that Clemson will travel well. And I know that there's probably going to be a ton more orange in there. So it's a semi-home game probably for the Tigers. But I know who the offensive coordinator of SMU is. I know where he comes from. I know his stock. I love the guy, Casey Woods. Is a good kid, a good young man as you'll ever meet. He was in the quarterback room with Jonathan for 3 seasons down there. He was I think the third guy behind Eric and Jonathan at one point. Great guy. So SMU, first year in the ACC. Did anybody see this coming? I can't answer that. But I know before the season we did say SMU's got a chance to compete, but we don't know where that, how high their ceiling would be. So far, they've busted through the ceiling.
I made that statement after the second week when I said that SMU will have an effect on the playoffs, but let alone also on the ACC champion. This is a good football team. They do play good defense. They got athletes. They're wide open on the offense. But that, as far as the wide open on the offense, they kind of brought on Kevin Jennings slowly, and he's playing well. But I said SMU would have an effect. Here we are today. They're having an effect on the ACC championship. Will they win? That's the big question.
Yeah, great question.
Clemson's been there many times. There are people on that roster at Clemson that have been through the ACC championship. That's the first time since the death penalty that SMU has been in this position. In the mid-'80s, I think it was.
This stage, yeah, because this is a stage.
Okay, and that's big. I look at this and think Clemson. I think Clemson will win this football game. And to the people watching that are Clemson fans, again, you're going to get in. You'll win and you'll be a bye. I don't think you deserve the bye, but then somebody would say, well, they won the conference. True point. Okay, so that's the way the rules are set up. I just think he's going to win this game. I don't trust Klubnik, their quarterback.
If Clemson wins, and we're going to have a great discussion about this tomorrow, but if Clemson wins, you've got SMU at 8. Is SMU in? Just real quickly without having a big debate. I think it would be really hard for me to see it. Now, if it's a blowout, that's a different thing. But if it's a good football game and it's a close game and they get in the fourth quarter, regardless if it's an offense or defensive game, if it's close, it'd be really hard for me as an SMU person if I was to say, hey, see ya, bye. Well, I can't see that. But that's just thinking out, But again, if it comes down, and I'm veering off track just a little bit here, so guide me back when we get there. But if it comes down to the sitting in that room and going, Clemson, SMU's got to go or Alabama's got to go.
My thoughts are, if SMU was to lose, they got beat by a 17th ranked team and a 16th ranked team. So make sure really a 18th ranked team. They got beat by IU. They got beat by Clemson. There's only 2 losses. I think they move out of the top 12 with no consideration. They will drop. They've been dropping losers somewhere between 4 and 7 spots, 4 and 6 spots. Excuse me, 4 and 6 spots. So if they're at 8, they move from 12 to 14.
I go back, but I do I don't know the people on the committee as well as you and Jonathan know who they are, and everybody else is probably watching. But I do know that the guy that runs the committee said that losing a conference championship game is not going to skew them towards a big drop.
Right.
So I don't
Now,
know, but we'll see. But because, again, the X factor in all of this is in Tuscaloosa.
right.
But
I made
that's great.
Happened on Tuesday when they came out with this current poll. I'm
Yeah.
looking at this, and I could be skewed in my thinking. They're either thinking the SEC deserves 4, and that's why they put Alabama where they were at, and that they're going to be settled there no matter what happens in the playoffs, or they can look at the SEC and said, we had you going into championship Saturday with 4 teams, but this happened and this happened to push your team with 3 losses out. I asked you this question, all right? The key, and we're going to get into that game. We haven't got to the game talk, so I'll hold off on that Georgia Texas thing. So as far as SMU, I think they're out.
Okay. Now, in Atlanta, Texas and Georgia, and I will tell you, if you've never been to a conference championship game, and I know that they're diminishing all these conference championship games now, but if you want an electric atmosphere, man, Atlanta, when you're there, and I think we were there twice when Jonathan was at Tennessee, it is spine tingling. What an environment! It is such a cool thing, and there's a lot on the line today, especially for Georgia. And whether it's listed as the SEC championship game or however you want to look at it, Georgia has a ton on the line. If they lose, they're probably still in because of, I go back to say what Jonathan said, what Coach Matthews has said, and what you're saying now is, look, there's no way in hell Georgia's not going to be in. It's just not, unless something crazy happens. But a great environment down in Atlanta, a 4 p.m. kickoff on ABC. It's odd that it's not this on CBS to me, but a 4 p.m. kickoff on ABC. 11-1 Texas, who some people think is still the best team in the country. I'm not so sure. I think that if they have, and this is not a slight on yours, but if 16 is at quarterback, from what little things I have seen, they are the best team in the country. If Manning is, that kid's going to be good. That kid is good, but he's not going to be the guy unless something happens. Georgia and Texas, SEC championship game. Never thought we'd say that, but that's kind of cool. Thoughts on the game? Tell me, what do you think about the football game? Forget all the other stuff. Let's just talk about the game.
I go back to an early season, regular season game in Austin, Texas, where Georgia came in and smoked them at Texas. Now they're an extended home game in Atlanta, Georgia. I just think in the big game, Kirby Smart, most of the time coaches his team well enough to win those big games. I think Georgia repeats what they did earlier in the season and beats Texas. They got a better football team. I think they're better than Texas.
If 16 is the guy, in your eyes, does that change anything? From what little we've seen,
right?
What little evidence we have.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't change anything. I think Georgia's just a supreme team right now. And, if they win, they're going to get that SEC nod in a bye. And the question is, what happens to Texas? They're going to be in, but they're going to fall back to where?
Yeah.
And, typically, like I said, 4 to 6. So you could see Texas at 6 to 8, depending on what happens. But that is the second loss to Texas won't leave the playoffs because their only 2 losses are to Georgia.
Yep.
So what happens to those teams setting that 7, 8, 9, 10, all that stuff? They stopped talking about Indiana, and they're now all the discussion is what happens to Alabama if this happens and everything. Do they get pushed out?
And before we get off the air, and then we'll be back tomorrow, I'm going to try to get everything lined up for the people we need to have on to have debates, arguments, discussions, screaming matches. It'll be fun. And I always preface, and now I'm going to preface it by saying, and I was tickled the other day when Jonathan said, folks, Chuck and I love each other. So what you hear here, just it's not that we're okay. We're okay. And if we throw Coach Matthews in the mix, woo,
we got hell to pay because
baby. But I want to go back here real quick and congratulate from Tuscola. I want to congratulate Walker Bolden. I want to congratulate Bridger Jones. I want to congratulate Bo West. I want to congratulate Ty Walker, and I want to congratulate my man, the Jesse Bledsoe, for making all conference in the Mountain 7. And as I've said all year, the Mountain 7 from top to bottom was probably from top to bottom now. And that doesn't, I'm not talking about, teams was probably in the mountains, the best conference as far as in the mountains this year. Good football players everywhere. And to make all conference, you had to do something really darn well.
Right.
And so congratulations to those young men. I do want to say this, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to, and I know that you're going to agree with me on this. Cooper Williamson is an all-conference football player.
Right.
And so Coop, you are the man. And I cannot tell you the joy that you brought the other guy on the screen every week for 2 years. Chuck talked about you off the air more than you will ever know, son. More than you will ever know. Every week, your first comments were always about 4.
Yep. He was a real cool cat on the football field, and he played the way it was supposed to be done. That's good parenting on Cooper's part. Got great parents, met his parents at McDowell County, and they just, happy he was out there playing. But their son played well. He played with all his heart. He is perfect for an academy team in terms of effort. He's like an academy player. I'm not saying he's.
You could not be more right.
If you're going to define an academy, Army, Navy, or Air Force player, define them. This is Cooper Williamson.
Yeah,
he fit that mold.
And I'm going for me, I'm going to miss Walker. I'm going to miss watching him play. Bridger Jones. I don't want to cry in front of people, but man, every time I saw that kid, every play, he played with every ounce of his being. Every snap, every play in the locker room, everything that I saw, this kid that's what football's supposed to be about.
Right.
Man, Bo and Ty, we got 2 sophomores, Bo and Ty coming back. Man, you build your program around people like that. You build your program around those kids. And then my man, and I've said this, Jesse Bledsoe. Man, Jesse, you should let me be your manager, and let's go and do some professional. This dude is he played with fire. He played right on the edge. And there were times that he would go over the edge, but man, he gave everything he had, and was man, just gonna miss him. Those 3 seniors, and of course all the seniors, and we talked about them, and we went down through our list and went through them individually. I guess was it 3 weeks ago, Chuck, or whatever. But congratulations to making the all conference team, and we'll see what happens moving forward. and I know that they're turning and getting ready for 25. But big college football games today. Well, do we know what time tomorrow's show is to announce these? Because we've got to set our schedule based upon that.
I'll look, but you got to look early. It's 12 to Jonathan. I think he said it was 12 to 4, 12 to 6, something like that. They'll be on. They'll get it started around, or maybe 2 to 6. I think it's 12 o'clock tomorrow. So
Okay, and
I'm
we'll
available early.
Yeah, and we'll be flexible in how we want to do it. I know that the show might take a long time, but they'll announce the teams pretty early, like they did last year, and then they spend the rest of the time with gobbledygook that doesn't. A lot of those. Look, golly, a lot of these folks that you watch on television know not what they speak.
Right.
Understand when I tell you that they know not what they speak.
That has been my mantra for a decade. These people that are on, sports in particular, they don't know jacks.
Yeah.
They just
correct. And because tomorrow we're going to talk about things that are going to be beyond football. The key word is going to be brand. We're going to talk a lot about the brand tomorrow. I hate that we have to, but we're going to because what the committee, whether they can't admit it, but that is going to be a big deal in the 10, 11, and 12 spots tomorrow.
I think you brand. I call it logo. They're choosing logo over resumes.
Yep. And I do understand. Again, we're going to have great discussion tomorrow. I get what Coach Kiffin. I get what Lane's saying. I do get it. I understand. And because when he's talking about it, the SEC in particular, hey, you got to go in there, you got to play each other, you beat each other up. I get it. I do. But I don't think that you look. And again, this is, I guess, a discussion we're going to have in really detail tomorrow. But the teams that we haven't really, talked about today because of the stuff. But you talk about, I have a problem with Notre Dame. I do have a problem with the Notre Dame thing. Tennessee, we're going to talk about Tennessee, SMU, Indiana. Indiana deserves to be in, period. No matter where they end up in the rankings, good for them. Miami, and I don't think Ole Miss the way that they ended, but you go back and you look at Miami and South Carolina, and you do have, if you're going to talk about Alabama, then Miami and South Carolina have to be talked about.
You think Miami deserves to be in?
Got it, man. That's really tough, Chuck. I think a lot depends upon what happens tomorrow. I mean tonight.
Right. Because the last 2 games, they lost to at the time was 2 unranked teams, but now Syracuse is ranked, so they lost to a ranked Syracuse 20th, something like that.
Yeah.
Bottom line is that I just don't think. I think Miami ends up like at 13, knocked out. They'll be the first to go after today. And then Bama, if there's a second team that pushes them back, then Bama goes. I don't think Bama's the first to go out. I think, Miami doesn't. Miami's out.
Well, at the end of the day, the way that it's set up, especially now with these games today, the 12th team is really not the 12th team. You're done.
Right.
You cannot get in. You cannot get in. There's no way you can get in. Right. But anyway, really great football today. Excited about what we see today. And my question to think about tonight that we need to talk about tomorrow is this, because of the playoffs now, is this the end of conference championship games? Ponder on that.
Right. I think that if the committee bangs the losers of these conference championships hard in the polls, I think they're going to end them. I think there's no more. You know, if they look at them and go, it's just another game to determine who gets a playoff spot, it's not really going to move people down. Like, for example, if Georgia beats Texas, Texas flips spots with Georgia. So, hey, they're in, they get a home game, you know, that type of thing. Okay, they'll keep it going because, like what Jonathan said, money.
Yep. Because I will tell you, the SEC championship game generates more dollars than all the others combined. All the others combined. Yes. So the SEC, even though it will hurt them in certain ways, if they make up that money, it'll go away.
You're going to make me go research that.
Yes, sir. You
Hard
do
to find
that.
money as
Yes,
the big, but go ahead.
Yep. The Big Ten championship game is again it's not. It's just not. But anyway, but the big game today, and before we leave, I have to, and again, it's really bad.
Buckeye tears. We lost to Michigan for 3 years.
And are you ready?
Yeah. Oh God, what are we going to do? It's been 1,837 days since we've beaten Michigan.
And they still have a just as good, if not better, chance than anyone to win the national championship.
Right.
But they do.
Folks, if you see Robert Willis around town in Waynesville, don't pander to his sympathy to his demise. Make fun of him. Make fun of him.
Gotcha. All right, guys. We will see you tomorrow. We'll have, hopefully we got a full cast of characters and have some great debate as we talk and get ready for the final 12 in the first year of the 12-team playoff. Chuck, I'm sure we'll receive a text from you in the next 30 seconds that will say some really mean and derogatory things about Ohio State. And I love when you send those things. So, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great Saturday. And it's going to get to 40-something degrees today. So, awesome. Chuck, I'll see you in a little bit, bud.
All right.
Bye.